Start recording. Okay, both are working. Hello, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello. Let us know if you can hear us in the stream. Yep, we got check. We got pre-stream Boa from Check the Fox Otter. Hello. Let me just post the announcements as well. So, just gonna post this. Post that.
Hello,
And
hello.
2 more. Posting this one. There we go. Announcement posted. Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome to another Resonance. Just gonna position this. We got people in the chat. Hello. Oh my god, it's Cutie.
Yellow
Look.
Dog Man.
Cutie.
we have yellow Fruxius and we have brown Fruxius on
Brown
the,
Fruxius.
Yeah.
It's not Fruxius. We also got purple Fruxius and demon. Actually, I don't like that. Why is it Fruxius now? Anyway, hello and welcome to Resonance. For those of you who don't know, this is like a weekly stream where you can ask pretty much like anything you want about Resonite. I'm Fruxius. I'm here with Syro, aka Brown Fruxius, apparently. And we'll be answering your questions for the next hour or two. If you want to ask anything, make sure to put a question mark. That way, like, whatever you ask, I'm actually gonna take this. I'm gonna show you. This is you. This is how we see you chat. So when I put question mark, like it pops on the pin messages. That way, you know we don't miss it. So make sure to do that. We also have these two. I'm gonna go back to this. And yeah, feel free to ask anything you want about Resonite. It can be anything with the development, engineering, philosophy of the platform, like even team, even just like personal things if you want to get us know better. For some questions, we might like redirect you to some other office hours, like for example, our team, they have theirs on it's Wednesday. Purple Prime has this like on Tuesday. There's the moderation office hours that happened pretty much like 90 minutes before this one. J4 did one. I don't know if J4's doing ones regular right now. I have to check on the Discord. There's like the events tab, and you can find the different like office hours. So there's like plenty of places where you can like learn more as well. And for some of the questions, we might like redirect you to those so you can get like better answer with relevant themes. But either way, feel free to ask. Like we'll try to do our best to kind of answer. I also like today. Usually this goes for 2 hours. Depending on how things go, I might need to like end it earlier today because like I'm kind of feeling a bit nauseous. So we'll see. Like if this kind of goes away, then probably like go through the whole 2 hours. But just as a heads up, I might end up like needing to end this like earlier than expected. So we'll see. I'll try to last as long as I can. I think that's everything. Oh, we're also gonna be answering questions from Discord first. So we're gonna go through these. Once we're done with those, we're gonna go through all the ones you're asking live in Twitch. So with that, let's get started. I'm gonna make a duplicate and we're gonna post this here, I think. I don't know if this is readable, maybe too small. So Mintshock is asking, in typography it is considered good practice to optimize fonts for different weights, boldness, and italicism, I don't know how to pronounce that, how much the character leans. This is often done by altering character forms and letter spacings, effort to optimize legibility. Often these optimizations are baked into multiple separate font files or be included in one variable font file. This is mainly needed. This is mainly needed to preserve variability on all situations. Some fonts, especially ones with serifs, the hooks at the start and of strokes in some fonts tend to be hard to read with Fox italics programmable effect by slanting a letter. 1. Does Resonite support variable fonts? 2. Does Resonite by default use Poppins bold? pop-ins italic, pop-ing bold italic when using the bold and I tags? If not, is there a way to first to specify separate font files for those uses? So right now we don't support those. That can be extended, but our system doesn't do it yet. We essentially use like whenever you do bold, the way that kind of works, because we use like sign distance fields, it actually adjusts the parameters for the boldening, and the slant essentially just slants the quad, which is kind of simpler to do. But you know, like I said, like it can like affect readability. So if it's something like, you know, like you feel is like an issue, like either can make a GitHub issue, or check first if there's like one for readability, and make sure people give it upvote, because that'll make it easier for us to, like, you know, give it this more priority and extend the font system. But right now it will not use that. For the variable fonts, I'd have to check like with the version of FreeType that we use. It should be like supported internally, but I might look to dig around into that. Next question is from Phoenix. Ooh, that's too close. Phoenix is asking, do you think when audio DSP happens, it'll be possible to make singing-based games, like shatter the wine glass with your voice by harmonizing with its natural resonance frequency, for example? I can imagine getting data from DSP land or protoflex could be complicated. No, I'm pretty sure it shouldn't be complicated. That's like the whole point is with it being protoflex is you can have different systems kind of easily interact with each other. So we'll probably have like, you know, modules that kind of give you ability to, you know, get like FFT, and you could like do pretty much whatever you want with that. So yeah, like I don't really see that being like an issue. The idea of that like kind of system is to make like interoperability with everything in the world like very easy, so you can have things in the world affect the DSP. So like, you know, for example, the environment could change, you know, how the sound's being generated. You could like make like an instrument, and you can, you know, make knobs that you turn around, or maybe it's based on hands or whatever you're doing, even whatever environment like you want to feed into DSP, you'll be able to do that. And similarly for any stuff that like results in values, you'll be able to feed them out and, you know, have it react to it. That way you can build cool, like, you know, audio visual kind of experiences. So I don't see that being an issue. Next question is from Shining Hero. Shining Hero is asking, you mentioned at one point having some cool projects you wanted to work on but couldn't because the splitting was taking all your time and energy. There's a good chance I won't be able to comprehend half of it, but I'd like to hear about it anyways. Yeah, I have a few projects like that I really wanted to do. But I know the one that's on my mind a lot is actually kind of related to the splitting, is being able to use Resonite as an overlay. So you could actually, instead of like, you know, running entire world, you'll be able to have your dash over any other VR application. And then you could also create like sort of this augmented reality layer on top of other games. So you could, like, you know, you could be, for example, hanging out in VR chat, and you could be like, you know, working on your avatar, or working on some protoflags, or maybe just, you know, want to bring some videos to watch. With the ability for anybody else in the same world who has the overlay to join that overlay, so you'll still have, like, you know, fully synchronized experience. So it's like, you know, fully synchronized augmented reality experience on top of other games. Or, you know, another thing is like, you know, I like to play Minecraft in VR a lot, and it'd be really cool just be able, like, you know, because sometimes in Minecraft, like, you know, build like these cool places and so on, but like I don't really use them to like hang out in them, because like Minecraft is not really like a hangout game. So it would be cool, you know, with like an overlay like that, especially if there's like integration, so the overlay is actually positionally synced. You could actually hang out with people, like, you know, you build something cool in Minecraft, and they just want to hang out for a bit in there, bring some videos to watch, you know, like do some other stuff, use it more like as an environment. And I think that could be like a really, really cool application that like just opens up like this whole new world of things you'd be able to do with Resonite that, like, you know, nothing else is, you know, providing right now. So that's the one that like on my mind like very, like a lot lately that I would definitely like to work on. Let's see, next one. Next one is from Goldie Raccoon. Goldie Raccoon is asking, do you think Resonite will be able to have geometry nodes like Blender at some point? So one thing we have planned is the mesh DSP, so that's gonna be able to, like, you know, generate and process geometry. It might not be, like, you know, fully like one-to-one to how they are in Blender. It's gonna be like its own system, but like you'll be able to do a lot of similar things with it. So pretty much yes, I would say. Asterisk. The mesh DSP, like the idea is, like, you know, you'll be able to, like, you know, generate meshes completely procedurally. So, like, you know, you can just generate something from scratch, you can animate it, or you can feed existing meshes into it, or once we also have vertex level editing, you can actually use it to make a pipeline. So you have, like, you know, your base vertex mesh, and you feed it through like a mesh DSP pipeline that does various like processing on it, and you see in real time how it's like kind of changing. So for example, we have a node that's, you know, does like subsurface, like subdivision, maybe another like retopologizes, another like applies like displacement, stuff like that. You can build whatever pipeline you want, and then you can be doing vertex editing and seeing it update in real time or near real time. Because it's one of the things, you know, you do in Blender. It's like you have like your base geometry, you apply a bunch of modifiers, and then you model that way. The only thing that bugs me with Blender is, like, you know, it's synchronous. Like if you have like very heavy modifiers, the whole UI kind of becomes laggy. At least last time I tried it. With Resonite, the systems are designed to be asynchronous. So like you can still be modifying the mesh, you know, at a high rate, and maybe like the detailed visual will be lagging behind a bit, but it's not going to affect, you know, your overall frame rate, and I think that could be pretty cool. The next one is Corey Tanis is asking, I'm curious if you ever compared libvlc with MPV and other such libraries based on FFmpeg. What's the reason you chose libvlc? So the reason I chose libvlc is because it existed. The main thing, like, I think people miss about this is, like, you can't just use the library, like, you know, on its own. It actually needs to be integrated with Unity, because we want to use it in Unity. Because the library needs to, like, you know, synchronize with Unity's rendering pipeline to update the texture, and that requires, you know, like, higher level of integration. And the problem with that is, you know, doing that kind of integration, that's also quite a lot of work. And as far as I'm aware, there's nothing for MPV. So if we wanted to, like, you know, use MPV, we would have to implement one, and it might take, you know, at least months of work, potentially. Like VLC, like, you know, there's like a third-party one that, like, we've been using, that's unfortunately not even developed anymore, which is, you know, I mean, it's a little bit stuck. libvlc actually has their official Unity integration that people are working on, but it's like progressing like super slow and still like missing some things. And it's been, like, you know, in development for multiple years at this point. So yeah, it's pretty much like, you know, one of those cases is like, we can't compare, you know, it against something that doesn't exist. libvlc was the one of the few things that existed as a choice for this, so our options were kind of like, you know, constrained. And next question is from Kersney. Kirsten is asking, is switching to a new render part of the splitting? How much impact would it have on performance? So no, that is not part of the splitting. The splitting is just separating the Froox engine and Unity into two separate processes. It's essentially like splitting them apart. We do want to replace the render at some point too, but it's a separate project for the future. One that we kind of jokingly started calling the snippening, because we'll snip Unity away. I don't think the name will stick, but yes, this is a separate project. I think it could, like, impact performance quite a bit too, because one of the things we want for the new renderer, there's like a few things. Right now with Unity we are using the deferred pipeline, which, like, allows you to have lots of light, but it has a fair amount of overhead. it uses a lot of like memory bandwidth, and we want to switch to a more modern pipeline like a clustered forward. That's going to provide a lot of benefits because it can render lots of lights, even more than deferred, and it can render them pretty much for all materials. Because if it's deferred, it can only support opaque, transparent, like non-transparent objects. Anything that's I'm saying it wrong. It only supports opaque PBS like materials. If it's anything other than that, it falls back to forward, and then has like limitations where the amount of light actually increases, the GPU load, because it needs to re-render the mesh multiple times for every single light that affects it. So using something like clustered forward that on itself should help graphical performance quite a lot. We also want the render to use Vulkan, which is much more like, faster like kind of API, much more kind of lower level, that on itself can provide like, another performance boost. And we want to use modern technologies for stereoscopic rendering, where we cannot use, certain newer methods with Unity because they're not supported, like the combination of pipeline we use. So that itself can also like, help with performance. So overall, yes, like I do expect it to actually bring performance improvements on its own. But it is a later project for a later date.
And also we can use much better anti-aliasing techniques like MSAA.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah, there's another huge benefit because MSAA doesn't work with like deferred. But with cluster forward, that kind of brings it back to like where you can use it. So you kind of get benefits of like both like forward and having lots of lights.
Yeah, none of that temporal anti-aliasing crap.
Yeah. And we'll be able to do custom shaders because we'll have control over those, which is another big thing. That one I'm really looking forward to because it'll be so much fun to mess around. You can just, do stuff with proto flags and just have things like change and do visuals in real time. It's going to be so much fun. Next question's from Kyubi. How familiar are you with ECS? It keeps related to totality peg, minimum cache misses. Do you think some ECS style patterns could be useful for the data model rework? Yeah, I'm quite like familiar. For those who don't know, it stands for like entity component system, and it's essentially like an approach of like scripting that like can be very high performance. There's actually some parts of Resonite that kind of use that pattern. Actually, the splitting, it kind of uses it uses some similar patterns where the data is like sent to Unity in like, kind of flat like buffers where, the buffer is just the chunk of memory that's like, specific class track, and it just kind of like updates those, and it's like very efficient. The trick is with Resonite, with the data model, is the data model is also its own system that's like quite unique. And it has like, certain features and constraints on its own. So we cannot like, just use straight ECS. It also doesn't work for everything. Like ECS is great if you have lots of things that are all kind of behaving the same, because you can like, you can make like fill out like big like buffer with them, and you can just kind of for loop over all of that, have it like, accelerate, have it vectorize, like be like super fast. But like, need to have a lot of the same thing, and there's lots of behaviors that like that might like depend. There might be like a lot of have conditional behaviors, or have like just like more kind of heterogeneous kind of composition. So what we'll probably end up like having is more hybrid system where like some components like they register themselves with some sort of like ECS system, and handle their updates like that way. But the idea of like behind the data model rework is actually to use like more more kind of ECS like patterns to improve performance. So that's actually why we want to do the data model rework in the first place, because we want to move it like to those kinds of patterns, and that's one of the reasons why it will help like quite a bit of performance, because the data will be more tightly packed. It'll help reduce overhead. It'll help reduce cache misses. So yeah, that's one of the big parts of the data model rework. There's also like parts where it needs the update system rework for some parts of it. It's kind of like interacts with each other, because with Resonite you cannot have the update system without the data model. They're like very, very tightly coupled, unlike with other game engines, which makes it like a little bit harder to do like one without the other. But yeah, generally you can expect to see more and more kind of like over the LCS like patterns in the future. Next question is from Missing. Let's see, there we go. Missing is asking, a bit concerned over the whole payment processor not safe for work takedown thing, how likely it is that will eventually affect Resonite, since itch.io's culprit was apparently Stripe, the same company you guys use? There's two questions. So for that one, like, we're not like particularly concerned right now, because like we don't sell content, because that's one of the things, itch.io sells content, and that's kind of like, the issue, like certain types of content, like the payment processors have issue with. We're not selling content on our platform, we are selling essentially storage and other kind of like services. So our business model is like, more similar to that of like, Dropbox or like OneDrive or Google Drive. So I think that kind of makes it like better kind of for a situation. Of course, we're kind of like, keeping an eye on it, but right now, like, thank you very much, Sunny Sensei, for the subscription. But right now, like, I don't think it's gonna like affect us, but we'll see. This is like kind of concerning, stuff like that is happening. But for our end, like, we just kind of have to like keep our ear to the ground. The second question is, are you guys planning on hiring more moderators if player base expands? I keep thinking about how we'll probably have a big influx of trolls and malicious actors once the platform becomes something the average VR user actually knows about. It's very easy to make other people time hell in public sessions after all. So that's actually a good question, for the moderation team. It actually got asked a few times. I would strongly recommend asking them there. Generally, yes, the moderation team, like they have plans to kind of onboard like a little more kind of moderators if it's like necessary. Depends, how fast things are gonna go. However, there's also another aspect that I feel is important to mention is like we have self-moderation tools. And the self-moderation tools actually give people a lot more control, because oftentimes we notice like when there's like, somebody going around trolling people just ban them out of their sessions and they're not able to join anymore. And those people tend to give up like pretty quick. So I think just having access to those tools will help the situation a lot, because everybody can, moderate their own session and has like, much more control than you might have in other places. But either way, we'll, it's one of those things like if like whenever like, that kind of growth kind of happens, like we'll do what we can to kind of adapt to it. If it's like super fast, there might be a period when it's gonna be kind of chaotic, and then unfortunately cannot be avoided. But if it's growing like more organically, that makes it easier to manage. But do ask this question on the moderation, office hours. You'll have to unfortunately wait for a week, because it's like 90 minutes before this one, so you've already kind of missed it for this week. But they might give you like, a lot better answer on this topic. Next question is from Palta. How will Resonite deal with the new implemented and the highly controversial UK Online Safety Act? Has there been any thoughts on it? Will UK be banned because of the risk it carries for you guys, personal criminal charges and millions of fines, quite literally? So we don't really have like much to announce like on this front yet. Like we are evaluating this, but yeah, don't have any details for you right now. Next question is from Mintshock. Sounds bigger. I'm gonna put it here. There we go. Mintshock is asking, in addition to question above, does Stripe really only support PayPal and credit cards? Only get to do those two as an option when checking out. This is turning me off of subscribing because I don't like to use both. Would it be possible to implement direct bank transfers like SEPA? I believe Stripe already supports SEPA, but it does not seem to be enabled for Resonite. Why is that? Thanks to single euro payments area, SEPA customers can make cashless euro payments via credit transfer and direct debit to anywhere in the European Union, as well as a number of non-EU countries in fast, safe, and efficient way, just like national payments. So it does support a lot more. The only thing is enabling those, like there's like, there can be various kind of complications. Like there's like, paperwork, there's like, stuff we need to register and do and so on. So that kind of complicates those matters, but it sounds like SEPA like would be probably a good option to have. What I would recommend doing, make a GitHub issue about it, that you have interest in this payment option, and we'll look into it. So yep, pretty much like make a GitHub issue, please. I know like we internally we had kind of some conversation what we should enable and so on, and we kind of like going slow because like we just went and enabled everything. Now suddenly we have to like lots of paperwork and taxes and other complicated stuff to deal with. So we're kind of like more managing it based on what payment methods are people interested in. And the last question from Discord. Last question from Discord is from Shargeen. On Blue Sky, I saw you dislike FBX format. Are there benefits to importing an avatar in GLB format or Resonite instead of FBX? I am unfamiliar with the differences between formats and curious is there a better choice? Yes, definitely. If you can use GLB, with FBX, it's always like it can be a bit of a like a roulette whether like it's gonna work or not. It's a roulette whether the materials and textures will import or not. Problem with FBX is like it's kind of like it's a million different formats in one, and it's not officially documented. So a lot of tools will also just their implementation is based on reverse engineering, and every tool implements it a bit differently. So you get all these like weird like compatibility issues between different tools. Like if you export it like with this tool with this setting, it's gonna work in this tool, but if you export it with this setting, it's gonna explode and your textures are not gonna import. So like using GLB, which is like an open standardized format, that generally should give you much better results and give you much better reliability. So I strongly recommend like using it. With that, the questions from the Discord are now through, so we can get to the questions from the Twitch chat. So there's quite a few piled in. Let's see. So first we actually have, and also for those of you who just joining, if you want to ask a question, make sure to put a question mark, that way it pops in our pinned messages. So we got a question from Ace on Twitch 17, and it's the classical schnoppet, which we've kind of like taken to using it for like things that are kind of frustrating to deal with, or that the little pains of like game developer life. The schnoppet actually comes from Tom Scott's video, where it actually came to mean mean through the memes on the internet. It came to mean that it's something where you spontaneously disintegrate when you think about it. And I have a list. I've been kind of compiling them. Since I'm not feeling super, I'm not gonna go into the bigger ones, but there's one that's it's not even Resonite related, and it's just kind of when I learned it, it just got some psychic damage. So apparently, the start menu in Windows 11, it's a web app. It uses React, which explains why it's so slow. And when I learned about it, I was like, why? Why would they do that? They literally have their UI frameworks that are fast, and they made the start menu a web app, which it explains a lot, because to me it's been frustrating because the start menu can be super slow and unresponsive. I would literally sometimes open it, it takes few seconds to even pop up. I type something, it takes few seconds to even respond to it. I'm like, why is it so slow? That's the core feature of the operating system, and they made it a web app. And it just kind of broke my brain. And a lot of this is frustrating because to me I've been using Windows for a while, and it has lots of flaws, but I always thought at least the core stuff, it generally works, and it's an okay system despite a lot of the flaws. But now, like over especially past few years, has been kind of feeling like, all the people who knew how to make like a good operating system, or maybe like, decent operating system, like they're kind of gone, and it's just like people who don't know much about OS development. They know like other areas, and they're kind of, using that in area where it doesn't really apply well, and like the system is like suffering for a lot of that, and a lot of the core functions of the system are now just becoming more and more unreliable, and it's getting harder and harder to kind of just daily drive it. And on top of that, there's like the stuff like where like they keep shoving AI stuff into it, and feels like, all the AI stuff is coming at the cost of like, the core functionality, like, like my like audio will not work, the basic UI for like volume will not want to pop up sometime, and it has to be like, restarted. The file explorer will just kind of like, the path will freeze and not stop like updating. It's just like lots of little things that just keep breaking, that like shouldn't be breaking, that should have like basic level of quality control, especially for, a company the size of Microsoft. And it's just like becoming like it's the great experience, and like this, the whole thing that like they even thought of using React for a core feature like that kind of explains a lot, and like it like puts me like in a situation where I'm like, I really don't want to be using this anymore. I want to switch to Linux. There's still a few things blocking me, so I'm kind of suffering. Sire managed to escape.
Yeah, I escaped.
And I hope I will be able to too at some point. But yeah, that's my snippet. And I hope you enjoy the psychic damage I've given you with this knowledge.
Oh boy.
So you're doing, that's why I'm like when you're working like on the stuff like to make stuff work on Linux, I'm like, thank you. You're paving the way for, for other people.
I'm trying. Oh man, you should tell them about how when you open your calendar, your entire computer explodes.
Oh my god, yeah. And I'm not even the only person who has this issue. Like I've talked with some people who actually like encounter the same bug. So, like every now and then, if I click in Windows, I click on the calendar to open the calendar because I just want to check a date on something or something. Just in the taskbar, you click like on the time and date. My PC will just start dying, and I check, and like the CPU usage 100%, memory usage 100%, just everything goes 100%, everything's dying for like 10 minutes, and then it like decides to like kill whatever's causing that, and goes away. And it's not even like visible process that's like eating all the memory and it's eating all the CPU. It just does it, like, and it's been doing it like now and then, and it's just like, why? It's just like, I don't know, it feels like company the size of like Microsoft, like they should have better like quality standards, like, and it feels like they've been kind of dropping, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it's not great.
Nope.
Every day I look back to where I came from, and I am all the more glad that I managed to escape.
Yeah. I hope to do the same someday. Like at this point, it's just kind of like it's past the point.
I believe in you.
Anyway, next one, we have typonics. I actually have a list of those too. Let's see, which one should I do today? I'm gonna save this one for... So, typonics, that's also another thing that we kind of started doing. It's just Schnopit in reverse, and essentially means something, that makes us reintegrate. Like Schnopit makes us, disintegrate, like we just turn into vapor, and typonics will like we just spontaneously like reintegrate. So one of those, one of the things that like makes me reintegrate are people in our community who, we do see like because like Resonite has lots of flaws. A lot of things are not complete. A lot of things like are buggy. There's issues, and like we get it. But there's people like who see the positives. Who see where the platform's heading. Who see what's already there, and like have fun with it. And generally like their approach is like yeah, like we we enjoy like what is there, and there's like a lot of really cool stuff and a lot of like fun stuff, and we, with the flaws, like we acknowledge them, but like not just let them bring us down. It's like something to be improved in the future, and you have fun like with what you have, and you have positivity towards towards the future, and that to me that like helps like kind of that was making me feel like a lot better. It gives me like energy, like like for example like the person who made like the Twitch that we're using, Check the Froox author, he's one of those kind of people like who like always like look at the positives and the positive future of the platform. And generally it's like, I don't know, from the developer side, like it's kind of like much better because like it feels like it's more like we're trying to like do good, and like and the stuff like we do matters. It does like good, and it makes me more kind of like it makes me more like happy, like and gives me more motivation to actually work and improving things and making them better for everyone, because I know like people are enjoying like people are actually enjoying the platform, versus like there's like people who always kind of see everything as a downside. Everything's bad, and if this is fixed there's still tons of bad things, and with that, like that is very draining. Like it feels like no matter the amount of work we put into things, like it's still gonna be bad. And it's like it's really really hard to work that way. So like people who do see things positively and who enjoy the platform for what it is, that's one of my typonics. I don't know how to pronounce typonics, but it's one of those things it's gonna make me reintegrate. So for all of you, like thank you for that, and thank you for whenever you say you enjoy the platform, like thank you. It helps.
It makes it all feel all worthwhile.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what do we have next. It's what happened? My menus are broken.
Oh, you might need to hang on. Let me see if I can fix your hands.
We're doing live surgery.
This happens sometimes for some reason, where like the context menus will suddenly start disabling themselves.
Oh, they probably throw an exception.
Yeah, let me just like open this here. So
good thing I have like help.
So the context menu is actually
it's on.
It's on.
The canvas is off. No, the canvas is off.
What?
There we go. Thanks. Oh,
weird.
No, there's more stuff that's off. What? No, it's still not working.
What?
There's something not updating.
What the heck?
Something else is disabled.
Okay, context menu, visual. The canvas is on. The radio menu. The arc layout.
It's on. Something on the context menu itself. That is on. Well, I just need to respawn.
Yeah, just respawn.
Okay. This might mess up the stream camera for a bit, so bear with me.
Stand by. Oh, looks like the camera survived.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's because I think I made it okay, let's see, where was I positioned? There we go. This is good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back. Okay, now we can go
the other colors of Frooxius.
So Yami DevTools asking, can we get other colors of Frooxius too? I've only ever seen yellow and brown Frooxius. we need more people to have like rainbow Frooxiuses. J4 actually did like office hours like recently too. I don't know if she's like planning another, but probably sometime. Check the Discord for like the office hours. In the events tab, there's like more information. Zenker is asking, are you currently streaming from the split split and infinite version. We're not. VR doesn't work yet. It's coming, but there's a lot of stuff to kind of proxy. So it's kind of funny because normally I'm like, I'm like, controls need to have more buttons, and I'm like, we need just one controller, there's just one button, because I have to like literally rewrite every single button and control and make sure that's proxied. So I've been going through all of that, and then like I was doing hands just before, like, fingers transmitting those. It's getting close. Still need to kind of wrap up like some things, but I might maybe have working VR tomorrow. Maybe. No promises. But it's kind of funny because like I have like a Steam VR driver on Unity side, and when I started working on it, I commented everything, and like everything was red. All the thing was like, this code is syntax errors, and I've been reworking it, and now there's like only a few red bits remaining before it can compile again, and then I'll have to like test it. So we'll soon-ish. But also, like, if even with that, like, we couldn't be streaming because, like, one of the things I need to re-implement is blitz to camera, which is used to, like, display the image from the camera, so that's not working yet. And that's, like, something I plan to implement after, like, re-implementing VR, because that's usually used with VR, so, order of operations. Wait, where did the thing go? Did I not put it in? Next question... Next question is from Ace on Twitch 17. How's your Sunday? Froox soon to be Monday. Sorry, Monday for me. It's okay. So I'm just gonna a bit nauseous today. I'm tired. How about this, sir?
I mean, I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm just kind of chilling here on the stream. I'm excited to. I mean, I guess I'm excited for work because Froox put me on the thing for making audio work under Linux, and we're going to use SDL3's audio system for it, which is cool.
Yes. You can have audio on Linux.
Yeah.
Next question is from Zenkari Dragon. Where's physics on the roadmap? So we it's definitely like post-splitting thing like this to happen after that. There's like a few things that are kind of high up there, like doing the IK, doing the UI, physics, collections for protoflex. So usually we kind of decide the next priority, usually right before we kind of work on it. So right now I don't know if this is gonna be the right next thing, because there's like a bunch of others, and we usually like look at like how many upvotes like each issue has, then we like what do we need, what makes more sense currently, and we kind of like make a decision on all of those parameters. So it's definitely something we want to happen soon-ish, but there's not like a specific point right now. If you definitely if you want like physics to happen sooner than later, go give an upvote like on the GitHub. I think it actually has quite a bit, so like it might be like one of the priorities. Next question is from Check the Fox Otter. Check is asking, I have a question today about planned data model rework. I know you talked about it in the main system in past episodes, but from my understanding, the data model rework will include more than just that. What else is included in that? Data model operations are by far the heaviest operation when creating content in Resonite. I'm curious if that can be mitigated and improved with a planned rework. So there's like multiple parts to it. I actually do recommend checking out the GitHub issue, because like that one kind of goes over the details quite a bit. But in short, one of the things is like reduced overhead, reducing a lot of the data storage, making things like be more cache friendly, reducing storing explicitly some data that can be stored only like temporarily. That will help reduce a lot of the like overhead, and it's also gonna introduce a concept of like continuously changing drives, because when you consider the data model it monitors when things change, so it can replicate them over network, and it can invoke like changed events. The problem with that is even something say like the IK, say the fingers, every single field of those it's changing every single frame, and the system is monitoring all of that, and it's triggering, events for every single one all the time, which, it makes things work, but it's not as efficient when some things will be changing every single frame. So one of the things that the data model rework is going to do is going to be able to tell a drive that the drive is going to be able to say, whatever I'm targeting, I'll be changing it every frame, or almost nearly every frame. So don't even bother monitoring it. Skip all the monitoring, just assume it's changed every frame. That way, it's gonna tie into, those systems like that send events, and they don't need to be propagating and managing all the changes. They will just say, this is changing every single frame. If there's any listener, I'm just gonna invoke it. I don't need to keep tracking and keeping a list of these things. And that's gonna help for a lot of the continuous stuff, like IK, which is modifying a lot of stuff because it's changing all the bones, all the fingers, dynamic bones. Those whenever they write into the data model, those writes are heavy because that triggers all that monitoring stuff. But the data model rework, it doesn't need to do that. It writes the value and that's it. It's skips a lot of the complexity. So that's pretty much going to be one of the major optimizations. So those are the two main things for doing that. The other parts are making it a little bit more dynamic too. So we can support stuff like domains and so on. That's gonna help as well. It's gonna open up some new features, but for performance, the reduced overhead is one side, and the ability to say something's changing continuously, that's gonna be another. And also, actually, I'm going to mention one thing is also protoflags already has the system, because when I made protoflags, I knew I was going to do this kind of a change for this kind of pattern for the rework data model. So protoflags, it actually has change tracking through its own, and it knows when something changes on occasionally, and it knows when something changes continually, and if it changes continually, it skips all the tracking for the, random changes. Next question is from jwiden4. Jwiden is asking, in the future, could it be possible to license or use Froox engine, crucially not Resonite itself, and ship a new game on Steam that uses similar how Unity games are released? Yes, we would actually like to do that at some point. I think it would be kind of cool, we build an experience on here, and there's already a few. There's for example, Blood on Clock Tower is one. It's very kind of contained kind of experience, and if you build something and you just want to publish it as its own standalone thing, we want to give you the option to do so. It will probably cost something, because it's a good way to kind of build a business model, licensing the engine and having your own branding on it, but it is definitely something we want to offer. If you even wanted to do something like that now, we do offer white label licenses for businesses. There's some businesses, when they start Resonite, it doesn't even say Resonite, it'll say whatever they want. It's going to give them custom splash screen, custom branding. It loads into their own dash, loads into their own worlds. So that's already kind of possible for business deals. If you have such use case, you can contact us, the business email or a contact form on our yellowdogman.com website, and we could see if there's kind of business use case. Modify Arc is asking, Resonite OS. I'm actually not sure what's that in context of. I know some people ask about having optimized Linux distro for Resonite, but maybe it will happen at some point, but we don't have any specific plans ourselves.
I mean, technically you can make a desktop environment out of Resonite if you really wanted to.
You could. Make it the main environment, don't even need the other one. Next question's from Papaltine. What blockers still keep you chained to Windows instead of switching to Linux? So it's kind of a combination of things. One is when I use Visual Studio to do the main coding, I would probably have to switch to Rider, which is paid software. So there will be a switch, and there's also some changes with project files for that. The other one is some of the Unity bits too, but also use software that doesn't exist on Linux right now. for some of the, for example, photogrammetry, I need to use Photoshop because it has like specific function for processing photos that like I haven't found in any other software. And I would like to like drop that too, because I would also like to drop Adobe, but I don't know any software that has like that kind of processing, because they have like really advanced like denoise, and that actually helps like with a lot of the scans I do. Like it makes like some of them actually reconstruct that would explode, and it's like I don't have alternatives for that one. The other part is also like hardware support. Like for example, I use the Viper Eye, and so I've been kind of working on getting that working, but it's not really out of the box experience. And it's actually the another part is like I right now, like I know like a bunch of people who like use Linux, but like a lot of the time like it's a lot of dealing with issues, and get like you have to spend a lot of time just getting stuff to work, and I don't have time for it right now, unfortunately. Like it's hard. Like I kind of like need like things to essentially get to the state like where it just kind of works out of the box. But yeah, there's like a few. Even like recently, I actually couldn't even use Linux on my laptop, because when I tried booting Linux on my laptop that I'm actually running on right now, and it killed the Wi-Fi adapter like temporarily. Like when it was booting, Glitch actually was watching it, and like during the boot sequence and prayed or something, Glitch was like, and he uses Linux all the time. He uses Arch, by the way, and he was like, oh, I've never seen it like print something like that. And then like I think the desktop environment started booting, and it just kind of exploded and didn't want to like work. And then I booted back into Windows, and the Wi-Fi adapters was gone. So I tried rebooting, tried power cycling, and it wouldn't come back. Like it was just gone. And the error was like something related to Wi-Fi adapters. So it seems like it put into like some kind of weird state. And the only way I fixed it is like I actually had to do like a hard power cycle, where, like and it actually made it come back, but it was like it exploded. So I usually run into issues like that, unfortunately. But yeah, there's just a bunch of like software that kind of use that like doesn't work, at least not out of the box, or like there's no alternatives for some of it. And some of it like I'll see like eventually we can like I would probably like want to like kind of dual boot, but like I would need to switch my development environment, which is like where I spend majority of my time, which is also its own kind of process. Yeah. And plus the VR stuff. I also probably wouldn't be able to switch like entirely, like still like dual boot, because like since like majority of our users are gonna be using Windows, we need to test on it, make sure like stuff works. But that's right now like I cannot like daily drive it yet. Decoy is asking, actually I don't know what this is in context of. Is that what happens? I always thought it was just you not loading like dash. But I mean like the context menus. Now that one was like something exploded, because like my dash was working, and usually there's like no whole queue that kind of blocks.
Oh yeah, it was the context menu disappearing.
Next question's from tracking. Ugh. No, my leg. Why is it doing such things? There we go. Next question. Glitchfor is asking, am I orange Frooxius? You are now.
You're orange and gray Frooxius.
Yeah, and remember, orange is cuter because orange has more yellow in it than yellow does.
Remember.
And I can and my tracking's not working. I can demonstrate it live.
Remember orange. It'd be really funny if you just stopped at remember orange.
Remember orange.
Just stop.
Just stop. Like I'm gonna add. Where is this? I'm gonna make a new mod. Actually, I was gonna make quad. So you see, I made a quad. And I'll make a material. Actually, let me just go rid of essentials, tools, and I'll make an unlit material. So I'm gonna make unlit. I'm actually gonna keep one of those as a background, and this material, I'm gonna make this yellow. There we go. So this is yellow. So you see, there's this yellow, and I'm gonna change this to multiply. And actually this one, I'm gonna change this one too. So we're gonna start with white background. There we go. So we have, we have white background, then we have yellow that's being multiplied, and I'm gonna duplicate it a few times. So this is one yellow, two yellows. Actually, wait, hold on. Small adjustment. There we go. Small adjustments. There we go. Okay. So you can see this is set to multiply. So we're multiplying. And if we multiply this, why is it green? Oh no, this is failing.
Because the world is blue.
Oh, it was messing it up. Oh, there we go. Look, orange. Oh, this didn't work as I hoped it would. Oh, let's do that again. I fixed it. The blue seeped in. It corrupted the results. So this is this is yellow. Duplicating. It's orange. Yellow multiplied with each other. So more yellow means it's orange. See, proven cute. In short, orange has more yellow in it than yellow does. Therefore, orange is cuter than yellow, because if yellow has cute in it, then orange has way more cute in it, because orange has more yellow than yellow does.
But isn't orange a slight absence of green?
Yeah, the green. That's why I had to make the green go away. Anyway, next questions from Nukun. Nukun is asking, by the way, how did you get it so Resonite itself could push meshes to the GPU and hand them off to Unity? Was it still involved? I don't understand this question.
Are you asking about how the mesh upload pipeline works?
Yeah. There's no SDL involved. We're not using SDL right now. So Resonite itself is not pushing the meshes to the GPU. That's happening. I'm very confused by this question.
Yeah, Unity is the one doing that.
Unity is doing that, but because you're saying, how did you get Resonite itself could pull meshes to the GPU? But you're also saying, how do you hand them off to Unity?
I mean,
you might need. Let's just try rephrasing the question, please. I don't know what. Yeah. Also, if you're asking context questions, you need to include context as a question. We don't know. This. I don't know what this is in context of. So you might need to include it too. Same thing. With this one. I don't know what is this in context of. Nukikun's asking, will we be able to do GPU side panning and such for materials with custom shader support? Yes. Once we have that. once we have that, then can implement whatever functionality you want with that. Resonite I was asking, is it more tech-tree than the roadmap technically? Yeah, that's kind of like a little bit how we go about things is, like we have like things and we try to like be sort of more flexible with our priorities. So like, rather than like, sitting down and being, these are gonna be our priorities, for the next 2 years. We just decide very close to each one because like oftentimes like the needs change, and as being so able to react and do whatever makes most sense at a time, I feel like we get most out of that. So that's usually kind of like how we can upload and like how we approach planning and prioritizing. Nukun's asking, Froox's site is making so you can run Resonite on Linux. Could you put in for us? Do you want that?
Sure, man. That's my payment.
I actually get paid. We don't pay by pets. Nukikan's asking, what do you like about that world? What do you think could be done better? I really like the caustics. Like that is a very neat effect. I like how it kind of like projects on everything, like because it kind of gives it an atmosphere. What could be done better? I feel like maybe like making it look like outside is actually water, because like it feels a little bit like it's just nothing there. So adding like say some fog volumes, like making it feel like there's like more kind of thick water there, that might kind of help, but it's kind of also being nitpicky. Next thing is next question is from MemoDevTool. What led to hiring of Rusty and Decoy, and how official will the stuff they'll do be? Like, will the new Rusty tutorial be in Help tab, or does he just do more stuff on YouTube and that helps through exposure? So for what led it, like this actually been mostly handled by Chroma, who's kind of like leading the marketing. So you might want to like ask him. Actually, I don't know if Chroma runs this. Like he's usually not on the art ones, and I don't think he has office hours right now. Let me double check on Discord. Do you know if Chroma has office hours?
I don't know.
He currently doesn't run those. So actually, like the only answer I can like give you right now is like it's mostly kind of Chroma like a site. So like, but the main thing is like was kind of looking for like very specific skill set that was needed at the time. So it's mostly kind of like influenced by that. It's pretty much like Chroma's like he's handling certain parts of the marketing, and it was like certain areas where he needed help with, and both Rusty and Decoy had like specific skills needed to kind of like fill those in. For like the official stuff, like whatever stuff they're doing officially that is official, whatever stuff they're doing on their own, they're still like doing on their own. So like there's kind of like that separation. It depends what if the stuff is being made to be like released officially, or if it's like on their own. We kind of like let everyone kind of keep that separated. Next question is Yamada was asking, does the Resonite team have commercial licenses to avatars they wear? As far as I know, like they're, I mean, it kind of depends because people have lots of different avatars, but like just like because these are like personal kind of use, so like I don't for a lot of them, like I don't think like there's like commercial license required, but also I don't know like status of every person, so I'm not sure. Modify Arc is asking, are there any plans to hire more software engineers? Right now, no. Eventually, we would definitely like to expand the team more, but right now, we don't have any plans. Nukun is asking, what does the mesh upload to the GPU thing you did recently actually do, and how does it work? So okay, so that was like a thing that was kind of done, like, you know, a sort of pre-splitting part. What it does, it uses more like lower level APIs, where previously would use like more high level APIs, where it would like compose a bunch of like arrays, pass it to Unity's API, Unity would like do a bunch of processing on that, a bunch of validation, and Unity would generate the actual data that gets uploaded to the GPU. With the new one, we're actually using more low level APIs, where we generate like where we essentially generate like, you know, the memory layout for the GPU on our end, and we just like, you know, give Unity, you know, essentially just array of data, say upload this to the GPU, also give it like data like, you know, this is the layout of this buffer, and like, you know, that's much faster because Unity doesn't have to do the conversions. We can do them on our end, and we can do them more efficiently. And also it works better over the IPC mechanism, because with the splitting, we don't need to like, you know, pass million different buffers. We just pass one buffer plus, you know, free extra information, and like, you know, that's that makes things much simpler, and it makes it also much faster because like, you know, we can like generate like skip a bunch of the checks, and some of the checks are actually happening twice because we would do our own checks and validations, and then Unity would do the same ones even though we've just done them, and there was no way to skip them because we were using higher level APIs. Next question is from Gamer Delicacy. More pixels or less pixels? I think, you know, more pixels. Oop. And there we go. I need to reposition. Next question's from Powderpup. Powderpup is asking, I've noticed that you can airstrafe in Resonite. Is this intentional, possibly inspired by movement in Quake? It's kind of intentional. Like, it's well, you can kind of configure it. Like, you can actually change how much control you have when in air. It's not even strafing specifically. It's like, you know, it's like being able to like, you know, still apply change like forces to yourself when you're midair, and it's something you can configure on the locomotion module. On the physical locomotion, you can change how much force can be applied, and you can even set it to 0, which means once you jump, you cannot change your trajectory. So that is kind of configurable. It is not inspired by Quake. It just kind of feels like it feels kind of better to have the control, like, because there's no gameplay reason not to be able to do that. So by default, like, we'll let people do that, but if you want building a specific game on here, you can configure the locomotion to not allow that. So you have like, you know, you have the control over that. Kite VT is asking, what is the estimate? Do you have an estimated amount of time until you think splitting will be ready? Right now, I feel maybe in 2 weeks. It might be a bit longer. It's getting close, but it's also like, you know, still kind of like discovered complexity. There's like, you know, certain bugs that might like end up like into rabbit holes. So we'll see. Like, yeah, you know, things that. Yeah.
I was gonna say the frame timing is gonna be fun to fix too.
I think the one might be like relatively quick. I have like a rough hunch like what it is, but.
Okay.
But sometimes like things like end up like being, oh, thank you, Gamer Delicacy, for a subscription. It depends. Like it depends, like, you know, level of complexity, because like we'll have the VR support soon, and it depends, like, you know, will it help like find a lot more bugs? Would there be like medium amount of bugs? Could be a low amount of bugs? Like, we found a lot of them, like, you know, just with existing testing, but like with those things, like the tricky thing is like you don't know how many issues you're gonna get. So just at the rate how things have been going, like it feels 2 weeks, but might be a bit longer. Nukun's asking, have you ever rocket jumped in Resonite? Yes, I have. Modify Arc is asking, what make and model is your laptop? I have the MSI Titan. Forget actually the number of it. As one of the MSI Titans, like G70 something. Well, thank you, Chicky, for the bits. Oh my god. Chicken Fox is asking, I also heard glitch is cute. Yeah, like proven cute with Twitch bits, which is a big major component that has those, so like, it has to be valid. Next question. Johnny Awesome is asking, how locked in are current shaders in Resonite? Would you consider adding a line or two to them to allow using BC7 for normal maps?
BC5.
BC5, sorry. Actually, I think that should just, like, that shouldn't be much of a shader thing. I forget what BC5 is. I don't know. I mean,
see.
I forget which layout that is. I think it's like the two independently encoded channels.
Let's see.
Which might just work out of the box. I don't know. I'm changing that, like, that's actually a pretty big change if it needs shader change, because, like, there's, like, pretty much all the shaders that have normal maps, they use, like, Unity's functions to, like, decode stuff, so, like, we would have to, like, make the change deeper, or we would have to change a lot of the shaders, which might be also trickier to do for some normal, like, surface shaders, so, like, you can make a GitHub request for it, but, depending on the complexity of the work, the answer might be, no. And I don't know, like, right now enough to evaluate that.
It looks like BC5 is just 2 channels of BC4.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting would it want to be. Dan Armas is asking, not much technical question, have you entertained some sort of a single source of truth, for, like, a better word, for knowledge management?
What is
we have the wiki,
management?
but yeah, like, I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Like, at some point, like, we'd like to do where documentation for example, for fields is, like, built into the, like, engine in our database, so you can kind of, like, access it very easily in game, and could be considered, like, the source of truth. But I don't know if that's, like, exactly what you're meaning. Next question is from Jay Wyden4. Earlier you mentioned business clients can have custom branding. Are there any other interesting features that business clients have that normal Steam builds don't? Yeah, so, like, white labeling, that's, like, one of those things. Some business clients, they can ask, for having their own infrastructure. If they want to host their own infra for separation, that is a thing, like, we've been working with some to do. Just, like, smaller things, like they can, for example, have their own update channels, meaning, if the business is, for example, running events, they don't want, like, a sudden update to disrupt, their event. So that's another thing, that can be done for business clients. There's, like, a bunch of, like, some other, like, smaller things, like, support and so on. I would recommend actually bringing this question to probable Prime's office hours, because he deals with business clients a lot. Oh boy. He also developed a lot of these business features, so he should be able to give you, like, a much better answer on this topic. Gamer Delicacies asking thoughts on a ChatGPT Protoflex helper.
Never.
Probably not gonna do that officially. If you want to build something like that on your own, we're not gonna stop you, but I don't think we'll offer that, like, as official thing. It's, like, one of the tricky things, like, that's also, like, perilous with, like, stuff like ChatGPT is, like, they tend to hallucinate a lot. And there's actually been a study, like, where they found, like, it only gives you correct answer, like, 42% of the time, even with, like, the, fanciest model. And that can be, kind of dangerous, like, relying on it, like, too much. Because it's almost like, it's worse than a coin toss whether you get, like, something that's correct or not. So there's, like, a bunch of kind of concerns with, like, that. And it's not even, like, have any concerns, like, with, like, some of the efficacy of, like, the training data and stuff like that.
AI is just terrible for programming. Like, I see so many people use it. It's so prevalent in the .NET field. It makes me so sad, and it's just terrible.
Yeah. Like, people People like trusted like way too blindly. Next question is from Kite VT. How did you guys get the idea to add OBS plugin for streamers straight from inside a game? Do you think it's possible to add Streamlabs plugin too? I don't actually remember exactly. I think it was just like, when you're in VR, so you don't have to like, fuss with your desktop. It's kind of much easier to like, have it integrated because you can have like additional functionality with it, and also you can have like, just kind of build around it. So I don't know, it just seems like a good thing to do, like easier to kind of control. The other part is for the Streamlabs, I would say make a GitHub issue. We can kind of look into it. I don't know if they have, SDK. It kind of depends heavily on that, because if they don't have an SDK to control it, it's like it's gonna be probably difficult. Like if they don't have like any means to control from other software. But right now, like I haven't looked into it, so I don't know. For this, we actually have all the questions. We have like 45 minutes left, so I think I should be okay to kind of finish if there's like more, like finish the whole 2 hours if there's more questions. But we have no more questions. I need to ask more questions. If there's no questions, we'll probably end early. There's like some topics I kind of want to get into, but like probably start doing that after split ending is done, because like usually on these streams, like lately I don't have that much energy because of like all the work. So like I've been kind of saving them for later. Oh, there we go. We got a question from Glitchfur. Glitchfur's asking, has mayonnaise been turned into an instrument yet? No, I've been like kind of disappointed nobody did it yet. We need mayonnaise as an instrument. It needs to be functional instrument on here. I did have somebody I remember like somebody like talking about like scanning a jar of mayonnaise or something for it, but like that's about it. I haven't heard like super much. Next question's from Nukun. Nukun's asking, did you see the thing in Avatar Station and Jupiter Station where two worlds are connected by airlock with a button? You've talked about stuff like that before, but I don't remember seeing it elsewhere. I haven't seen that yet. That sounds pretty cool. Ooh, that's a good one. Modify Arc is asking Syra, what is the most frustrating thing dealing with getting the pre-release working on Linux?
Oh man, so since we're doing a really unorthodox architecture where the render is running in like one Proton while like the main engine is running natively, I found that there's not actually a lot of like support for communicating like between a native Linux process and a wine process. Like most people like on the internet, they're like, well, why don't you just use TCP, just use a pipe, just use a local socket or something. And I'm just like, no, we need shared memory. And so I was like, okay, well, I could just point it at dev SHM, which is where all the shared memory stuff is. But then that was also kind of janky, and then the semaphores didn't work, which means that like each side couldn't tell the other side that there was a message. They just kind of had to keep polling for if there was a message. So I just made like a little wrapper. But I suppose the most frustrating part, to get back on track, is managing like the startup sequence of Resonite in that configuration. Because what we have to do is we have to publish the game as if it was a Windows only game. And then when it launches, it will detect if it's running in Wine, aka Proton. Proton is just a modified version of Wine. And change the startup sequence accordingly. So we have a little bootstrapper program that I wrote, which will launch in the place of the main exe. Then what it'll do is it'll detect if it's running in wine, and if it is, it will launch a shell script. And that launches as like a native Linux thing, because when you launch a shell script from within wine, it will actually spawn, like there's a mechanism to have it spawn an actual instance of like bash or sh or whatever you're using for your shell, and do like normal Linux stuff with the shell script. So what that does is it downloads a native version of .NET for Resonite to use, and then launches Resonite using that version of .NET that it just downloaded. Then Resonite will detect if it's running under Linux and assume that it will want to launch, it will want to launch the shell script for Renderite, which is the renderer, which then writes, it's a little janky, which then writes the launch arguments to a file, which the bootstrapper then picks up and spawns the actual Renderite exe with those launch arguments, so that the bootstrapper, having been launched in Proton originally with all of the correct environment variables set up, will create a child process that also has the correct environment set up, aka the renderer. It is a big old merry-go-round that is crucial in making this configuration work.
It's pretty cool, like you figured it all out though, because like I think this is gonna help like Resonite run like a lot better on Linux. Like just like with the main process being native, it kind of simplifies a few things too. But also I think it like makes us like from at least technological standpoint, it makes us like probably the first platform or application to use this kind of hybrid architecture where like the one program has like is like literally a hybrid of native Linux and Proton for the other part of it. And I don't think there's I think there's a good chance like we're gonna be like the first to like do this kind of architecture, and I think that's kind of cool. So I'm glad like you kind of managed to get it working.
Yeah, it's very unique.
If somebody asks us like if Resonite runs natively on Linux, we'll be like yes and
yes, no.
Yes, no. Next question is from Yami DevTool. Today I once again noticed how easy it would be for me to program in Flux if I could actually find the nodes that do that. Do what I want my own. I think LLM that is trained on Resonate documentation solely to find nodes and components would we need to have.
No.
It feels like you just want search. Like it feels like adding like just unnecessary complexity that's just gonna make up information like now and then and give you stuff you don't need. Because like the main thing like we really need is like we need documentation for the nodes and search. Once you can search it, it can actually search like the keywords and other stuff. So like I feel like that alone, having that like that's gonna solve like pretty much like your problems. Again, like the issue with like LLMs is like they can kind of give you good stuff until they don't, and they will just make up stuff or they will like not understand stuff. So like it's like I find it a little bit like perilous to like depend on them to like give you, because like you're almost like, if that's the only way to kind of access like find the stuff you want, like in some cases it's just gonna give you bogus stuff, and in some cases it's not gonna give you what you need. So like I don't think that approach like I think like we just need search.
Yeah, that's like that's what like we would tag the nodes for like what categories they're in and what actions they're related to.
Oops. Kyrivit is asking, when did you start the mentor program, and do you remember who the first mentor was? So that was the thing that kind of developed over time, but there's actually another thing. bring this to the office moderation hour because the mentor program is handled by the moderation team. So you'll have to wait until next week because they do their office hours like 90 minutes before this stream starts. But this would be like a perfect question, you know, for their stream. Next questions from Qualitorium is asking, are there any file formats or network protocols, other ways of importing, interfacing stuff with Resonite you'd like eventually get added to platform? So there's like two things I can immediately think of. Like one is I would like to actually open the importer-exporter mechanism and open source part of it, so everybody can actually write their own importers and exporters to add support for whatever formats you need. With that, like, you know, it's not going to be just up to us whatever formats we support. If you need support for super obscure format, or if you need like specific modifications to like how the import works for formats we already do support, you'd have ability to do that. So I think that on itself could open up lots of possibilities. The other part, I would like to add like a mechanism that sort of lets you manipulate the sort of document object model of the scene over like a say like TCP connection. Like it doesn't have to be TCP, but some kind of like, you know, connection. So you could actually control it from other scripts and use that to build SDKs. So you could do, you know, for example, stuff like you could like, you know, build like Unity SDK or Unreal SDK or Blender SDK and have Resonite kind of interface with lots of different programs, and that itself also that would be open. So anybody in the community could either expand the ones we provide officially or build their own. So those two, like, you know, are things I think could be like very powerful and could like give a lot more power to everyone in the community to like, you know, expand Resonite's like ability to import and interface. Next question's from a random meatball. What is an object or world that someone has created in Resonite that truly blew you away? I mean, there's a bunch. Like it kind of depends on what like level, because like for example, a lot of the say like for social worlds and just like interaction and just general polish, a lot of the team vibe stuff, like their MMC stuff that like tends to be like excellent. There's stuff like, you know, like somebody like built like a functional like, you know, neural train, like some of the people in Japanese community, they made a functional like, you know, neural like network like training world and demonstration world, and it was also like really cool. I've seen people build like, you know, simple like physics engines, build like, you know, tools like for like you know, parsing like languages. So there's a whole bunch. There's been like, you know, some games, like even stuff like, you know, say the Blood on Clock Tower I mentioned. That one is like both like really cool world, like, you know, like it's very like they put like so much work into it making it work. But also another thing that blows me away is like they've been doing it for like years now, like hosting regular games, and then on itself, like, you know, that blows me away. And if we go along that line, there's also like, you know, Creator Jam, which is like running right now, and it's been going for even longer, and it's been going every, you know, every weekend, hosting events, you know, like building stuff and just producing like, you know, so much things. They even like some of the stuff they built, like, you know, made it to like rain dance, you know, like another kind of like events. So there's a lot. Like I could go like, you know, for a while like about this. Like it's like I don't like picking like, you know, just like a single thing. There's just like a lot of stuff like along the way. It just kind of like blows me away. Next question is from DJ Sima1. When the time comes, what will collections look like? Do you think they'll reflect existing structures like JSON or XML, or is there plan to aim for something even more generic, flexible? They're gonna be more reflecting like, you know, collections in C#. Probably gonna have like, you know, stuff like lists, arrays, dictionaries, hash maps, stuff like that. Ability to iterate over them, you know, access specific elements and so on. You know, other remove elements. For JSON XML, there's gonna be more like, you know, like parsing stuff. So like you, for example, JSON, you can parse it into like, you know, series of dictionaries and lists, and vice versa. You can like, you know, convert like that structure into JSON. But like the JSON, like, this is considered like a conversion point. So you have like, collection to JSON and JSON to collection. So this kind of convert between the two, but like you won't work with like JSON as the collection itself. Next question is from Aki Toasteru. I'm sure this was mentioned before, but roughly how high is the priority is the IK overhaul? First the splitting, of course, but any plans what comes after for as the next big thing? So the next big thing hasn't been decided yet. IK is pretty high up there, so like, there's a chance it might be the next thing, but also the decision hasn't been made yet. Might do like something like, like the molecule, like to kind of like ease the development, but we'll see how things go. Like no decision's been made yet. Oh my god, we got Resonite is asking what kind of rock or mineral would the renderite be? We already got a question like we got it. Didn't we get like last time? Somebody was asking about it, or somebody was asking what it would taste like.
Like pop rocks.
Pop rocks. Does it pop your eyes?
I don't like that anymore. I think we should stop talking about this.
Yeah, we should stop talking about this. You figured it out. Next question's from El Tremendo Lagarto. Would you rather use the full body you currently have, or let's say in future use suit that you put same the way you put on clothes? I mean, it depends like how bulky the suit is. So like if it's pain to get into and if it restricts movement, then maybe not the suit. The good thing about trackers is they're light. Ideally, I would like want to use like something that like does optical tracking, or maybe magnetic tracking, so it works like could like go under blanket or something like that and be comfy. But we'll see. It depends. Like it mostly depends, how pain is it to deal with.
I want OptiTrack. Give me OptiTrack. I know it's like $40,000, but give me OptiTrack, please. It's perfect.
They can give you OptiTrack if you have $40,000.
Please.
Win a fundraiser for OptiTrack for Syra.
Yes, please.
Jay Wyden's asking, so you've been answering our questions, but so far you haven't answered the Eldritch Textures questions. What gives? It doesn't let me. Next question's from Dev Hammer. What would you like to do as a celebration for getting the splitting done? Nothing for a bit.
I think Froox wants to become a rock.
There's been a thing is like there's always so much stuff like like possible thing do this, possible thing do that, possible thing do this, and I'm just like I just want like little space to breathe and decompress, and not think about things for a bit. Also maybe order a pizza or something, maybe get some ice cream, I don't know. Get some fruit. I've had like a pile of games I wanted to play that I haven't been able to touch like for a good bit. I don't know. Just kind of like not have to worry about like what I'm doing next for just a little bit.
I mean, I know it's like work related, but a thing that I would be excited to do is to instrument all of the engine using
That's
Tracy.
tough. Just doing things.
I know, but it's fun. I think it's fun.
You can do that like when I'm done, when it's out, when I'm not doing. Anyway, next question's from Ace on Twitch 17. If you don't have the bandwidth for molecule, like there is too much on your plate, do you plan on having J4 working on molecule in the long run, since some parts of its automation? Yeah, so the automation parts like J4 has been like working on already, sort of like in preparation for that too. So that's already kind of been happening. There's like parts that I kind of been, because I actually implemented parts of it, but I kind of had to like drop it for other things. And it would have like very specific things I want to like do with it and the way I want it to work. So some of it is like, like kind of building the tooling for myself. But but a lot of it's like, like a lot of the heavy stuff is like, because the tooling like the molecule like for my end is mostly just kind of like gluing things. So like a lot of the automation for builds, that's like, where a lot of the time has to go, and J4 has been kind of doing that. So I like actually did some of the CI/CD too, but now it's almost like on J4's plate. Next question's from, I'm moving this camera again. Modify Arc is asking, why are inspectors generated by the host? Because it's kind of simpler to implement that way. We don't want to rework them, so they're more flexible, but like having them generated by different users is actually more complicated, because now we have to worry about who's responsible for like, generating and updating it. And like, because if we have like multiple users, what happens, if like if you spawn an inspector and then somebody else like, modifies it, now that needs to go to the host, needs to go to the user, now you need to generate, that goes to host, needs to go to the other user. That kind of complicates things. And then what happens if the user leaves? It needs to like have a system to hand off the generation, and maybe the other user like, is like, now the host is, taking care of that. Or maybe do you want the user who's most recently interacting with it to generate it, so it's more responsive that way? It carries like a lot of kind of complications, and just like saying like, okay, the host is the one who generates it no matter what, it simplifies things. And it's pretty much the main reason, because you don't have to like worry about like a lot of these complexities, which like they are solvable, but you need to spend time solving them. And original like inspectors were like made like, to like be kind of quicker to implement, but with the rework, the goal is gonna be, to make them like make it more flexible. Next question's from Yami DevTool. Yami DevTool is asking, so is official flags in component documentation planned? The current wiki is basically useless for discovery of nodes, since most pages only describe a few fields or nothing at all. We would like want to have it like, done, but like people should like work on the wiki, because like even if we do make like stuff in game, like we'll probably source the initial version of it from the wiki. So like, like the important thing here is like having official documentation system doesn't solve the fact that you need to document it. It just changes where they're stored. But like if the documentation isn't written, it doesn't matter what system you use, you still need to write the documentation. So like ideally, contribute to the wiki. Like that's the thing that will help the most with that. Satan Dub is asking, can you tell the story behind the bread part of the bread day badge? Yes. So the way this started is like when I started like working on like new sort of concept for UI, I was like, thinking, what are we gonna call it? And we started like using like terminology for like, terminology for stuff like, that has to do with gems, stuff like minerals and so on. And one of the terminology I found is like, there's like a lot of terminology for different cuts, and with cuts of like the gems. And I like the terminology that like when we have gems, they have facets, and it's why we have like facets in the UI that's kind of named with that theme. And whenever like looking at different cuts, there's cuts like something called like brilliant cut, and there's like specific way to cut like a gem. And there's also a radiant cut, which the UI has been named after. It's called like Radiant UI because it kind of sounded cool. But there's also like something called baguette cut. And we're kind of joking, like, what we just called it baguette UI, and we're like joking about it, but we're like, it's not actually a good name, but it sounds funny. And like. But we're like we didn't end up using it for UI name, but we're still like, let's do something with the baguette. We actually named one of the internal bots. We named it Baguette, just as a funny, and it just kind of kept going. And then we're going like, we would like to do like an icon for like when somebody has like anniversary. The way Reddit has a cake day, we wanted to like something similar, but something that's not a cake, because Reddit's already doing that. So like, what if you do baguette and just like stick a candle in it, and we're like, okay, well, that's funny, let's do that. And it was like, one of the use cases where it's like, it's fine for it to be goofy because, it's just the goofy thing, like it's the anniversary of your account. And then instead of calling it baguette, like people started calling it birthday because it sounds like birthday, which works even better. And does how this can end up like that? Next question is from KVT. KVT is asking, will the splitting help certain users stream without getting extreme lag and helping user not have to enable lowest graphical settings? So that kind of depends a bit like on why they're having issues. The splitting, it helps reduce the CPU workload. So like, the stress on your CPU is lower from the engine itself. However, if you're streaming and you're streaming like, a camera, that actually you need to render, another view. And it increases the CPU load for the rendering part, which is still Unity. And it also increases load on your GPU because your GPU now needs to render your own view and needs to render your camera view. So now the GPU is doing a lot more. So if the GPU is the bottleneck, the splitting will unfortunately not help. If the bottleneck is your CPU, it should help because it reduces the overall CPU load. But like, depending, like, it sounds like you're saying if they enable those graphical settings, it might not help in those cases because from that it sounds like their issue is, more like their GPU is not like keeping up with like having to render two views. So the splitting unfortunately will not help with that, but ultimately you have to try it, see if it helps or not. It depends on what specific bottlenecks are. Next questions from Modify Arc as well. What is your favorite esoteric component? Oh gee, what esoteric components do we have? Let me think. So maybe I have one. It's gonna do create new empty object. It has to be something of the procedural stuff. So maybe procedural. I don't know if actually. I don't know if it considered this esoteric, but I think it can be procedural texture, the simplex texture 3D. I'm gonna go with that one. That's relatively esoteric. I've added like procedural 3D textures because I needed to test something, and I was like, I'm just gonna add like one for fun because it takes 5 minutes to write, and it was the simplex procedural like 3D texture, and then people have actually made really cool stuff with it. Which I'm gonna show you in a second. People have made stuff like this. Oh, wait,
amazing.
How did I spawn both?
No, I spawned one.
Oh, I was gonna spawn. So there's this, and this is fully 3D. So I'm gonna spawn the other one too. So this one, I'm gonna make it bigger.
Watermelon.
And look, this is volumetric.
It's
actually
watermelon.
3D.
It's either watermelon vape juice or like petroleum gas.
Yeah. And what's cool about it is like, this is fully, like, this is volumetric. And it looks super cool. And like, it runs like decently well on like what it is.
Yeah, it's running on the CPU.
Yeah, this is being generated on the CPU. It's also like, the generation is like asynchronous and I think multi-threaded, I forget. It could make it super big.
Ray March too.
Yeah, this is being Ray March as well. So it's one of those things, it's like, it doesn't have like, it doesn't have like, very, it has very niche use cases, so I would consider this kind of esoteric. I implemented it mostly, for testing purposes because I needed to test procedural, like 3D textures. And also because, actually, I need to implement like four-dimensional simplex noise for photon dust, and I was like, I can just like do like I can do like a texture like this. So I implemented it, and it's super cool, and people do cool things with it. There's also another version. This one's gonna also need like very like it uses like very like low resolution. And you can see this is also kind of like it's 3D. It's volumetric. So yeah, that's I'm gonna go with this one. Okay, that's actually all the questions. We got 15 minutes left still, so if you've got a few more questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we might end it a little bit early too. Some procedural mice my generator. As Wolf there is saying, giving me Star Trek Warpcore vibes. Apparently that's called the bitrate. Check the Fox asking, actually, what was the original use case for the unwrappable box driver? That always seemed oddly specific to me. I think I was building an experience where I wanted to have like, at the end of the experience, like you would get like a gift, and the gift would like unwrap itself, and it would be like, nice and flashy. That like, you get like, oh, it opens up, and you have a thing in it that you can now take, and it's like animation. So I made it for that. It's actually one thing that I'm kind of like avoiding now, because like a lot of the early Froox engine stuff, like it had very like kind of monolithic and specific behaviors, and like I've kind of shifted to like do stuff like that's more generic. Kind of move away from that kind of like specific use case approach, generally, and like prefer like have like more complex stuff kind of built in game. Modify Arc is asking, how difficult would it be to implement decoupling each VRI from IPD so we can emulate chameleon vision? So it wouldn't be too difficult, but like we would have to kind of disable certain optimizations, like single pass rendering, because like it's kind of, it has some constraints on where the cameras can be. Like it kind of requires them to be in certain like position, and kind of the VR part kind of controls that. We could just like render like two separate eyes. The question there more is like, is it worth like spending time on? Because like making the rendering be not one-to-one to your eyes is like one of the big no-nos in VR like development. So like the use cases for that like are extremely niche. So it's more like probably not gonna spend time on it, because there's not really there's not really like much of a practical use case for that.
Do you want to puke?
Yeah, like it's kind of like it'll hurt your eyes. Next question. Yami DevTools asking, if Resonite was built for education, what would be best school subject to teach in Resonite? Anything. I mean, that's the thing with education, is like, it's universal. Like, no matter what you want to teach, having the social aspect and having like, able to visualize stuff and like work with stuff, it improves all of it. Like, say like you wanted to teach history, you could literally bring like, make immersive environments, like historical environments, where you could like watch some history unfold or interact with it. If you want to teach chemistry, you can visualize molecules, interactions. You could make something interactive where you grab the molecules, play with them, see what kind of happens, stuff like that. If you want to teach physics, you can make virtual physics experiments, so you get like intuition, like you build intuition for how does physical mechanisms work. If you want to teach programming, like we have ProtoFlex, so like you can program with that. If you want to teach like art, we have brushes, you can like learn that way. If you want to teach mathematics, that's related to is related to like program, like ProtoFlex programming, so you could do some of that. And you could also build like there's like beautiful like visualization worlds, like some stuff built by Jim and Ambe. They made like a really cool mathematical visualization worlds where you can actually like see stuff visualized. Also like I remember there's like one world called like Rose curved surfaces by Umbrev-san. That's also like excellent, educational like world, like that shows you mathematics. The recent one in that also won like an MMC was the Enigma machine, and it was also like Excellent World, where you learn some history behind the Enigma machine, and they actually made a functional version that you can use in Resonite, and as you encrypting stuff with it, it actually shows you how the current flows through the machine, so you can better understand how it works, and it's like excellent, like you can learn engineering that way. There's been, Underworld that I really like this do you want to buy Axiom Wolf, like where you actually learn how Martian Cube's algorithm works, and they made like a functional tool for it too, but they also have like a really cool kind of visualizer for it. Or the other one was like by Japanese community, they made like a geography puzzle where you can like, you can be putting maps and, like you can be learning like, and reinforcing your geography knowledge in a really fun way. So like really anything. Like I really like the ESD category for like MMC. If you actually like search that one, there's a lot of really cool worlds. If I just go, let me just check ESD. If we check like MMC and ESD, there's like a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, there's like astronomy ones. Oh, Patient Journey. That was also like really cool one because the Patient Journey, like, that kind of like walked people through, like, what to expect if you're gonna have, like, certain, like, operations that you need to have done, and it kind of walks you through the entire process and makes it, like, easy to understand. So, really, I feel like there's no limit. Like, teach everything, teach anything. Next question's from Qualitorium. Qualitorium is asking, are there any kinds of scientific or educational content you'd personally like to see more of in the Resonite? Oh yeah, I mean, like, just any. Like I said, like, education, education is like, like kind of like one of my kind of passions, and like I like see like improve on any fronts. I would say in general, I really like stuff that's focused on visualization and like into building intuition. So stuff that's interactive, because you only remember, like, if you hear a topic explained, there's only so much you remember. If you hear, like, if you can see some visualization, that helps. But being able to, like, mess with those visualizations, like, have something you can sort of, like, poke this thing and see what happens here, and poke this thing, see what happens here, and like sort of build intuition on how things work. That is the most powerful thing you can do for learning things, and I want to see more of that. Like one of the things, so for example, learning physics could be like, you get transported to like a laboratory of, like, Isaac Newton, and you're like his assistant, and like, and you help him with his experiments, so you can actually understand how some of the, how some of the stuff we know now, how was it discovered, what kind of experiments they have done in the past that, like, let them to understand what's going on. Like one of the examples I like is, how they discovered, infrared light, is because they were like playing with, like, prisms, and they would, like, separate the light into different colors, and they would actually put thermometers, in a row, and they noticed that each like color actually changes the temperature at a different rate. And they found, like, okay, like different parts of the spectrum actually carry a different amount of energy. But they also had a thermometer that was, that actually rose a lot in temperature, but they didn't see any light there, and it was beyond, red. So they kind of figure out, well, there's like probably, like, part of the spectrum we can't see that's, now called like infrared, that actually carries a lot of thermal energy. And that's how they found out, like, by doing simple experiments, like, in the past. And I feel like like teaching things, like, that way, like going through the history of it and being able to, like, perform the experiments yourself, that I feel is like would be like the peak education, like how best you can learn. And actually, like, this is like one of the topics I kind of want to talk a lot, like, more in depth in one of the resonances. I'm kind of saving it for, like, once I'm less tired from the split inning. But I feel like this approach to education like, you know, is like really the best you can do. And there's like a lot that kind of goes into that, because like there's an excellent book called Free to Learn by Peter Gray that collects a lot of like research, you know, around how we learn naturally. Yeah, I'm not gonna go like too deep, because like I'm kind of saving it for like some other time, but I hope this kind of gives you some idea. Next question's from Modify Arc. Why does Resonite use the outdated DS encryption library for obfuscation, and why is obfuscation necessary? So it's pretty much using it because like it's part, like one, it's the part is kind of old, and also it's not used, you know, for actual encryption. We're mostly like using it because like it's quick, it's fast, and like, you know, like there's not really security concerns with it, because like obfuscation, unlike encryption, it's expected to be reversible, you know, just with enough effort. And it's pretty much like, you know, why it's there is like just to make like, you know, reversing some things a little bit more effort than just kind of being in a completely plain view. In part, it's kind of like the reason's a little bit weird, because like for some of the things we obfuscate them because people will see certain like data that like is technically just public data. It's fine data, but like it will spook people just like seeing it, and we will get like, you know, requests, you know, being like oh, like you know, this looks scary, like, you know, there's like this scary data string in there, and we're like, it's fine, it's like, you know, it's not really not expect to be like, you know, private information, but because it spooks people, we just gonna obfuscate it. The other one is actually for ref hacking, because we use obfuscation to kind of like make it fairly bit harder to do ref hacking, because the idea is like, you know, we want people to like, you know, need to like, if they really want to do it, we want you to spend like, you know, a bit more effort to do it, because when you do that, like our hope is, you know, you realize that like this is something that you're not meant to do. You're kind of like, you know, pushing against a system in a way that you're not supposed to do, and we can't really stop you, but we want, like, you know, people to realize this, you know, like maybe this is something that's not intended. Because if it's like too direct to do, if it's like too simple, then like, you know, it can give more of an idea like this is an intended functionality. But by adding the obfuscation to it, you know, it gives it like, you know, like we wanted to give more of a vibe is like, you know, no, you're not supposed to be doing this. You can, like, if you really want to, but you're supposed to. There's like, you know, caveats, and there's like, you know, this is probably gonna break. This is not an intended behavior of the system, and it's kind of like, you know, why we kind of obfuscate it. Oop. And let's see. Got pretty much gonna wrap up, but Kelby is asking, post any vacation? Maybe, we'll see. As usually stuff kind of comes up, so we'll see. Anyway, I think we can like end it here because we got like 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Unless there's like, you know, a super quick question, but I don't think like we've got time for anything else.
Nah, let's just end it.
Actually, no, this was quick.
DLFC.
Modify Arc is asking any upcoming FOCONs you are going to. I'm gonna be going to Eurofriends this year, and also BLFC very likely. And one like is still to like sort of like travel, so like unless like, you know, something happens, like there should be on both, and hopefully MFF too.
All right, now we can end it.
Okay. So anyway, thank you everyone for joining the stream. I hope you've enjoyed, like, you know, like asking questions and like listening to the answers and so on. And like, you know, like thank you everyone for like, you know, supporting the platform as well, whether it's like, you know, just being part of it, making cool content, or supporting us, you know, financially, either through Patreon or Stripe. Also, if you're on Patreon, please consider switching to Stripe, because we will get about 10% more from the same amount of money, which helps us a lot. So thank you very much. Let's see if we have like anybody to raid. I need to load this up. Because we actually raid like different streamers. Like if you're streaming Resonite around this time, this might be like a good time to do it. I see Creator Jam, so I'll probably send you their way. And also like last thing, like if you want like more, we'll be like here like next week. And there's also like other office hours, about 3 members like throughout the week. So check our Discord. There's like the events tab, and you can find like when the other office hours are happening. So thank you again very much, and we will see you next week. I'm gonna say hi to Medra for us, so I'm gonna do raid. And also thank you, Sarah, for helping answer questions too.
See you fellas later.
See you later. Get ready to say hi to Medra. And they're always doing like cool things at the Creator Jam. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Raid. I'm gonna stop streaming and stop recording.